That is a pre-canned theme song if I ever heard one. Or is it just canned? Which is it?
I don't know. It's a little rock and roll. I think, I think we were a band in our former life.
All right. So we are back. We're here. Another fantastic in the record books, in the Hall of Fame for podcast. I'm going to get rid of this music. Episode of Off the Mark with the Bickersteins. That's where you come in and say Bickersteins, and then
I think we decided not to do that anymore.
Oh, okay. I forget.
See, we're already bickering.
How about Mark with a C? That. Off the Mark with a C. How about we don't? That's not even worth an argument.
There you go. Your go-to podcast when it comes to marketing, PR, and good old-fashioned bickering.
Yes, we don't. Do we bicker?
Nah, never. We agree on everything.
I'm going to show that to my attorney.
I think we bickered just like pretty much all morning, but anyway, with our client.
But we weren't.
Never.
We never bicker.
We never bicker.
No. All right. So this has been a big couple of weeks. A few things maybe going on. I don't know. What's been big in your world? What's been big in the world?
Well, we got a new puppy. That's huge.
Yeah, that is.
It feels like news. A baby.
Yeah. Bites.
Full-time job.
It poops. It's great. You can tell how thrilled I am. Okay, and
she's cute.
She is cute. All right. You can't hate puppies. You gotta love puppies. Okay. What else has happened? All right. Joe Biden was sworn in.
Yeah, officially became the 46th president.
Was he? Is he really? I mean, come on.
Yes, he really is.
Okay. Well,
and we got our first female vice president.
But really?
We have claps. Claps.
Oh, hold on.
Yay.
Oh,
wait, it needs to be my sound effect. Thank you. Yes.
All right, great. But is she really? I mean, again,
Yes, she is.
Really. I don't think so. I think it's all made up.
No.
It's like the moon landing.
We're not getting into conspiracy theories. No.
Well,
that's another podcast. That's another podcast.
But the reason we bring this all up is because politics is so dominating our lives. Is such a big influence on everything. I mean, you can't get away from it from anywhere. And we're going to talk today about how does that influence marketing when you're a company,
right?
Small company, big company, whatever.
And do you mix? If you're a company, do you mix politics? I mean, there's certain things, there's been rules in the past. Family members, business, don't talk religion, don't talk politics, and you'll probably survive. And obviously that's changing a lot lately as we witness every day in the news, it seems like, right?
Well, I mean, politics has been, we tell our clients generally,
stay away.
You're going to piss off half your clients, right? But that was the rule of thumb back in the 50s when I grew up.
I think it's probably still the rule of thumb.
You're supposed to say 50s? No.
50s? Oh my God. Yeah, I was thinking 70s or 80s when you were a kid, but
peace out, dude.
Anyway, no, I don't always listen to the advice that I would give a client, but no, I still think
you don't listen to any advice. Let's be honest.
I mean, I would definitely tell, but I think that advice still is for a lot of, but it's gotten harder. I think it's gotten harder because I think different generations, I think millennials and Gen X, Gen X, I'm not even Gen, what am I? I'm Gen X. Gen Zers, they're much more about social responsibility. I think they want to know about a company, how a company feels. I think they want more transparency when it comes to their buying purchases. They want to support companies that are aligned with their social and corporate, or they want corporate responsibility that's aligned with their social and political beliefs.
Well, do they? I mean, to go back to the question I've been asking, or is it real? I mean, we're going to find out. We have the person who knows the answers to these questions. But I mean, even before it became, Ben and Jerry's has always been political. There's been a lot of politics in business. You can look at, Hobby Lobby. They went all the way to the Supreme Court about their insurance plan, their health.
Chick-fil-A.
Well, Chick-fil-A, yes, no, maybe so.
Yeah.
No, their head dude, the guy who started them, is political, but the company separates themselves from them. But they're also closed on Sunday, observance of religion.
Right. Nike obviously went all in with the Colin Kaepernick.
Dick's Sporting Goods and Walmart about the guns and the mass shooting. After some mass shootings, they've gotten rid of some guns and weapons in their stores.
Right. Then obviously, very recently, with companies cutting off donations to senators and representatives that supported the legislators who decided that Joe Biden was not president. They said we're not giving any donations to any of those politicians. That was a big deal.
And the My Pillow guy.
Oh yeah, my pillow guy. That's crazy.
No,
He went
you're
all in.
supposed to be objective.
Well, he just went all in. I mean, like he had like the Marshall Plan, on his. Not only did he have
Martial law,
martial law, sorry,
Marshall Plan was something else.
Okay,
Yeah.
but I mean, martial law, yeah, like he went like way over. So I don't know. I mean, the My Pillow guy might be a little bit like in a different category. Yeah. That's not just happening.
And was he or was he not dating Jane Krasinski? That's the other, whatever her name is.
I say no way.
He says no, and he's suing.
I say no way. I think she would say no way. But anyway.
Is that political? Okay. All of this brings us, all of this yappity yap, whatever, is bringing us to our guest. We should have introduced a long time ago. Dr. James R. Bailey. Yay. Yes, he has a lot of credentials. Professor of Leadership Development at the George Washington University School of Business. He's a fellow at the Center for Management Development at the London Business School.
Wow. His credentials are so long. I don't know why he's with us, to be honest. But
my agent is not happy.
What's that?
My agent is not happy.
Yeah, you're gonna have to fire your agent.
Yeah, I would definitely fire them.
Booking person or whatever. He's taught at the University of Michigan, the New York University, at the Helsinki School of Economics. He's the recipient of several teaching distinctions, including 4 GWSB Outstanding Faculty Awards, and he has one shitty agent. Most of all, he is the author of a study that asked, how do consumers feel when companies get political? He wrote all about this in the Harvard Business Review.
Oh my gosh, we're hitting way above our.
We are punting way past our coverage here. Okay.
Well, thank you for joining us, Dr. Bailey. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for sitting through all of that yenting on our part. Yes.
I did to turn the volume off, so it was fine.
You're paying some bills and taking care of other.
Yeah.
A lot of
people. I actually wrote a chapter of a book while you guys were talking.
Well, good. I'm glad we can get you to focus on that.
Does this book deal with what companies and getting political? That is the first thing we see there. What made you did a study on this? And before we dive into the whole study, what made you want to look at this?
Yeah, I think because we all started to see it, right? I mean, you mentioned your upbringing back in the 1950s, where you did not do this sort of thing, right? Companies stayed away from politics, but then we started to see it in increasing measure over the last decade or so. And so the question just became: is this a wise decision? Is this alienating consumers, or is it drawing the consumers to them? And so it was that, and also just influenced by some of my students who tended to be, more sensitive and active in social advocacy movements. And so as I was working with them, they kind of wanted to see things, some of my research, especially things we did together, go that way.
That's so as you said, in my 50s, like Darren Stevens would never tell his clients to advertise.
Okay, now you have to explain who
neither Darren, neither the first Darren or the second Darren. That was more the 60s, but you get my point. It was look it up, kids. It's a show called Bewitched. Which, by the way, I was watching on Hulu lately. I think on Hulu, it doesn't age well.
Oh, okay.
It didn't age that well.
The nose doesn't twitch quite so well.
Well, okay.
Now that we aged ourselves.
So you
remember Green Acres with Arnold the pig? That one didn't age well either.
No, not so good. No. Mr. Zucker, whatever. Yes.
That's right.
I'll tell you something. All right. So you asked a lot of great questions. Does political advocacy have the power to change consumers' minds? Does it really affect stakeholders' attitudes? Are people willing to apply for jobs at organizations whose beliefs oppose their own? I think that's the greatest, because you always forget about not just reaching out, but getting great employees for yourself. So,
right.
So how did you come up with these questions, first of all?
Yeah, I think it was that exactly what you're talking about. A lot of it was just brainstorming, but also within the field. And what we study is sort of um, job applicants' attraction to various different available positions. Which ones are they more likely to apply to? Which ones don't they apply to? Obviously, there's stuff that if you want to go into the public sector, obviously you're going to apply to public sector jobs. But we wanted to, again, if you're buying something or you're buying into something, right? So if you go to work somewhere, you're buying into that place. And so to us, this was just a different way to think about consumerism.
All right, so let's talk about the survey itself, or the test itself, or the study itself. How did you go about? Who did you get? Who did you look at? How did it work out?
Yeah. Okay. We had, gosh, I don't remember the number, 150, something like that. It wasn't a huge sample of students.
168.
168. Okay. Thank you very much for your precision.
I had it in my notes. I have it right here.
That's very nice. That's it. I doff my chateau, or chapeau. Sorry about that. I want to be corrected again. So 168 folks, and we asked them. Of course, we had gender, so we knew who was male and who was female in this. We also asked them about their political beliefs, had them identify themselves as Republican or Democrat, but also then on sort of more of a scale from very liberal to very conservative, and then in between those, get an idea of what their political orientations or proclivities were in that way. And so that was basically how we broke down the population. We didn't have as many Republicans as we wanted to. And I think part of the problem is we were sampling on the East Coast, mainly from kind of more metro areas. And so we might have found a different distribution if we were doing this in rural Kansas. But
that's just interesting that you couldn't find enough Republicans.
No, it is funny. And some of these folks actually were executive students in like online programs, but they're all over the world, but they tend to be in Brussels or London or Singapore. So once again, we had that kind of urban, sophisticate population, which we're redoing the study now. I'm going to describe how in a little while, but to try to balance some of that distribution.
So you got a pretty decent cross section of people, and then so you tell them about this, Jones Corporation, right? Like, and then you throw them a curveball.
Well, wait, what was to tell them about the Jones Corporation? Let's hear.
Yeah, well, okay. So tell them about this James Corporation, and then you tell them about its conservative values. So tell us a little bit about how the study worked.
Yeah. Okay. So this is what's, and we used the Jones because it was just the most, innocuous name you can come up with. And
already taken Acme. Is that right?
Yeah, Acme was already taken, and so is the Bickersteins. They didn't want to name the company.
You should give a clap for that. I think. There we go.
Wait.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. All right. Well done. And so we described this company again. It's a fairly vanilla like firm. There's nothing really special about it. And then we articulated some of the charitable activities they were involved in. Stuff like United Way, Boys and Girls Club of America, stuff that doesn't really evoke any strong feelings of it being political in orientation. So at this point, they're looking at a regular company doing sort of the regular charitable activity that a corporation would do. And then came the curveball. For half of the folks in the study, we then went on and said, oh, and by the way, the Jones Corporation also is a big supporter of the National Rifle Association, is a supporter of some of the efforts. For example, you were mentioning Chick-fil-A earlier. And that includes things like, homosexual transformation programs, and they support these kinds of things. Half the folks got that. The other half of the folks got, hey, these companies are engaging in very liberal social advocacy activities, and those could be, strong support for a donation to LB. Sorry, I sometimes get all the the letters in that acronym confused. LB. G,
LBG,
Q.
QT, LBGTQ.
I'm gonna let you guys answer that.
Yeah,
one.
there you go.
LBGTQ, I think it is.
It keeps
I
getting
know.
long. Those of us who were raised in the 50s don't have the memory we used to have.
I know, right? Like, don't add one more letter, because then we've totally like lost. We're lost.
Exactly, or at least arrange it where it sounds like a word or something like that. And so we'd ask them all when they just heard the sort of vanilla version, the generic version, would you buy their products? Would you apply there? What is your overall impression of them? And then we ask those same questions again after we introduce them to either liberal or conservative activity. Asked those same questions again and then looked at the difference of the scores. So did their opinions change? See, if you just would have done it one time, you don't know. All you know is what their positions are. So we did it this way in what's called a pre-test post-hoc study so that we could actually have these different scores.
And it found.
Yeah, so there was like 10 different findings in it, and some of them are pretty obscure that when you just look at them, they don't necessarily mean really jump out from the paper. But a couple of them did. One is that people who identified themselves as Democrats or as liberal or very liberal or somewhat liberal, their attitudes toward the company that engaged in conservative activities plummeted. I mean, plummeted. So here was the company they were just fine with before when they were learning about it, being involved in the Boys and Girls Club of America. But then they learned these other things about them, these conservative NRA kind of activities, man, they went down. So their willingness to apply for a job there decreased in statistically significant ways. Their overall impression decreased, impression decreased significantly, and so did their intention to shop there again or to buy their products. And so that was one of the biggest findings that we had. You want me to go to the other ones now, or you want to chat about that one for a minute or two?
So wait, so Democrats or liberals?
Yep.
They really, I mean, a complete turnoff, and then that would really change whether they do business with this company or not. I mean, basically.
That's exactly right. I mean, kind of a boycott attitude. And then the other side of this, just to give you the full picture, is people identified as conservative or Republican didn't have any effect on them at all when liberal activities of the company were described.
That's the greatest thing in the world. See,
that actually is shocking to me.
No, conservatives have more of a, you have the cancel culture on the left, and you have a open-mindedness on the right. I think that solves it. We're done. Let's go to Fox News right now.
Oh, okay, wait. No, that I'm still shocked.
Tucker, where are you?
I'm still surprised by that because I mean I'm on literally I just had a conversation with somebody on Facebook the other day, and they weren't going to support a store because of their beliefs. And I was like, I think that, oh, I know what it was. It's the My Pillow guy. They're like, I'm never walking into a Kohl's and a Kroger and a whatever the stores were. And I'm like, I get that. I don't shop at Walmart. I don't shop at Walmart because I don't believe that they pay their people a living wage, and the taxpayers supplement their workforce. And I think that they have enough money that they could pay their so I don't shop there unless I'm stuck in the middle.
Unless there's a good deal.
No.
You've shopped at Walmart.
No, I do not. Unless I'm at a beach area and there's no other place, like I can't get to something.
I think this you probably don't. I don't know if you have any answer to this question, but people say they're not going to do things, and then do they really not do it?
Yeah, so that's sort of a classic issue. It's sort of the attitude action gulf rate. We say something's important to us, but then we don't actually do it. In other words, I'm not going to shop at Walmart, but oh man, look at that special. Look at that. That stuff's half off. I'll just make sure nobody sees me.
Right.
I'll buy it online and I'll drag it into the floor.
Our kids are the most open-minded, great representatives of their age or whatever.
They're Gen Zers, yeah.
Yeah, and so open-minded and so thoughtful and considerate, but they go to Chick-fil-A, and I'm like, okay, pick me up something.
No, but they don't
Okay.
want to go to
Okay.
Chick-fil-A.
They don't want to go, but
I
they
know.
go because it's really good.
I know.
So what?
But I
Okay,
don't go to Chick-fil-A. I won't go to Chick-fil-A.
But you'll eat it if I pick it up, or if the kids
If
pick
I'm
it up.
starving and there's one right there, I'll eat one.
Okay,
But I will
so-
not buy it.
Which maybe okay. So why were the liberals more?
Yeah,
canceled?
what's the difference then?
What did you find?
Yeah, I mean, we couldn't really get into the why, right? I mean, what we've got is the what here. The why would have to come with follow-up kind of interviews, studies, what things were really motivating you, which one of your values were either challenged by this or ignited by it. But I mean, what you guys were just talking about, by the way, actually proves the point. You were talking about not wanting to shop at Walmart, not wanting to shop at Chick-fil-A. In other words, I don't want to imply anything about what might be your political orientation, but that's liberals saying, I'm not going to do that. The interesting question then, I think, hanging out there is, why do Republicans not care as much?
Right. Yeah, that was my next question. And were you able to find out anything on that?
No, again, we couldn't get into that with this study. This is this episode-based or scenario-based pre-test, post-test study doesn't allow you to get into those kind of details. And so we're in a speculation mode here. And at the end of the paper, we speculate on what's going on. And it's that you just said it. It's a good sandwich.
Right. That's it.
It's at the end of the day, and I point out at this, that at George Washington University, we're one of the most liberal, politically active campuses in the country. The Princeton Review points that out every year. Okay, and there's one area underneath the dorm where there's 4 or 5 different food stalls, and 4 of them are locally owned businesses doing things like Hawaiian poke, tacos, pizza. I mean, really great places with great food, and they're locally owned. Now there's a Chick-fil-A, and there's 40 kids lined up to get the Chick-fil-A, and there's 2 kids waiting to get some really good authentic tacos. So, I mean, and I couldn't help but point that out at the end of this paper.
Because that's your next study. I think you said you were looking into this study to redo, but
yeah, you'll stand up
that is your next
in
study.
the Chick-fil-A line and say, "Hey, listen, guys, all you right here, you're going to be my study participants." But
No,
that's kind of odd. That's a little counterintuitive what you found in the study then, because are you saying because your student? Do you think your students are more liberal, or you don't know? I mean,
oh yeah,
right? Yeah.
It's definitely so. But I think to the point made earlier is this difference between what you say you're going to do versus what you do.
Okay.
And so, and then all of this starts to get in. Well, what difference does any of this mean? Why is if it's not really driving behavior, which again we don't know that in any sort of, we can't say that with any kind of confidence. But if it's not driving behavior, what's this about? Self-presentation? Sort of internal resolution that, hey, I'm a good person and believe in these things, so I can't do these things, and yet you do them anyway and find some excuse. Well, I need something really quick and I feel like chicken. So we don't know. I mean, so there's these differences that came out. Here's another one, by the way. Women were much more sensitive to corporate advocacy than were men. So women's opinions changed more than men's opinions. Now,
on either side, like both when you're talking liberal or conservatives?
Yes, but of course, most of the variance is carried by people who are liberal because that's where we saw the biggest change.
Right.
It was also true among the conservative group, but remember their range of change was much smaller. They didn't react as strong.
So basically, I mean, from this study, obviously there needs to probably be more stuff, follow up and whatever. But if
he covered everything.
He covered okay.
We're done, right? It was perfect.
We solved it. Yes. But what I'm saying is that
all right, there's our music.
No. I have way too many questions. Totally. So, but basically, so what I'm saying, if I'm a company and I as long as you really just don't want to piss off the liberals, then really. So it's okay to have liberal views and share them, because you're not going to lose the conservatives. But if you
Right.
have like the My Pillow guy, right? He's the opposite. He has very conservative views, and then the liberals will be like, I'm
Yeah,
going to
but how
burn my
many,
pillow.
how many, shirt burnings have we seen of Colin Kaepernick's shirts? How many? I mean,
Yeah, that's another thing. Like all these people who are like, I'm never gonna watch another football game again. I'm like, sure, I don't believe that. But you heard a lot of people about that whole Colin Kaepernick and the flag and all that stuff. They were like, I'm not gonna watch NFL, and then the NBA started supporting Black Lives Matter, and a lot of people on my Facebook page were like, I am never watching another basketball game again.
Who's on your Facebook page?
I have a lot of people from Ohio. I grew up in Ohio, and I have a lot of conservative friends.
On Facebook,
well, some of their friends, they're just like, I don't see them every day, but we tend to argue sometimes on Facebook.
Yeah, hard to believe. Okay, so what's your question?
So what I'm saying is that it's safer, I guess, from your study, it's safer for a company to have liberal beliefs out there than conservative beliefs out there. If if you're looking at the impact to your business.
Hold on.
That can certainly be a conclusion. You're exactly right. I think that's an astute observation, is that if it's not affecting some conservatives so much, then you can kind of put out there what you want to put out there. But conservatives, we've seen this in the last few weeks, right? Conservatives' ire about political activity is toward politics, not toward companies. We didn't hear anybody, you haven't heard very much on Fox News or anything else about them talking specifically about anything other than the big tech companies, right? It's Facebook and Google and so forth. They don't like them at all. But other ones like Starbucks, they're perfectly fine with. So I think that, conservatives might tend to just redirect as opposed to that classic boycott or boycott approach that we see on the liberal side, which is we're not going to buy it because it's socially irresponsible practices, or we're going to boycott and buy a lot from this place as opposed to that one. Right. And so it might just be how people manifest their belief systems.
And wait, I mean, I know Walmart's personally hurting because I'm not shopping there. I mean, they're like sending me stuff every day saying, please, Kathy,
Amazon is not hurting from
no,
you.
I'm joking.
Going by the delivery of packages every day.
I'm thinking that boycotts and boycotts, I don't know. I mean, do they really work? Does it really? I mean, I guess it impacts. I'm just wondering if it really, at the end, impacts a company, or is it more of a short-term impact?
Well, you know what? We did not look into that, but if we're just to speculate on there, a boycott could be an opportunity, right? If you have a really savvy marketing department and PR department, you go out there and say, these people are doing this to us, even though we do all these other great things. We deliver you good products at fair prices, and we engage in these meaningful social activities. So it can actually maybe be an opportunity for a company. If you boycott me, I'm going to now appeal even more to my base that might turn around and boycott me. So
if they need
it's not universally good or bad.
Media, any of those companies.
Oh yeah, for crisis management.
On the
Mark
Media.
That kind of goes back to.
I'm just trying to get the plug in.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. On the markmedia.com.
Mark with the C.
Crisis management, where he'll help you.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, Dr. Bailey. But let's remind everybody who we're talking to actually. Joining us is Dr. James R. Bailey, who, on top of being a professor at GW University School of Business, is a frequent contributor to The Hill, The Washington Post, The Washington Business Journal, the Harvard Business Review, and that's where we found his study. I read consumers
that religiously, the Harvard Business Review.
I do too, every day. That's why we found this article. How do consumers feel when companies get political?
It's very impressive. I'm very honored to have Dr.
I am too.
And fascinating.
He's way smarter than us. I mean, maybe.
We can put a lot of people in that category.
That's true.
And I love the word boycott. I
hadn't heard of boycott either.
I had not heard that.
Yeah, that one was fairly new to me too. This is one of the great things about being a professor, right? Is you have these younger students and they'll use the phrase in class, and then you look it up and go, oh my God, it's a way you stay up with things, is because again, us old folks, it's not like we're on Reddit all the time and following all these conversational lines, and so
You would be
really
buying
nice.
GameStop, right?
That's right, or AMC stock. But
right.
it's when I looked at that, I was like, oh my God, they can even do that.
I know.
And again, but the people in my class in their 30s, this didn't surprise them at all, right? Because they've seen this sort of thing for decades, and so it's just a nice thing. You get renewed, and you can stay in touch and stay hip.
You
I saw that on your TikTok account. That was a great video you
Yeah.
had on your TikTok account.
That's why he's so hip. He's hanging with the younger guys, the younger folks. So I'm curious about, since we're talking age, and when you looked at this study, the breakdown, was there a difference in Republican and or just on the liberals or conservatives? Was there you said the women were definitely more
Right.
impacted by advocacy. What about the younger folks? I know you split up the age group between, hold on, it was 20 to 29, and then 30 to 39, and then 40 plus. Was the older folks or the younger
That
folks?
was just like you're like a news anchor right there. Just getting, this just in. You were
This just in, breaking.
looking up the numbers right there. That
Okay.
was awesome.
Thank you. Anyway, did you see a difference in the attitudes based on age?
There was a trend line, but it wasn't statistically significant.
Huh.
So it's kind of hard to comment on it other than to say more or less in passing. But when you're writing a piece like this, there's this mix between the data and opinion, and you gotta balance it. You go too far with just opinion or speculation, they won't publish it. So the trend was there, but maybe not as much. And you've got to remember the vast majority of the subject were people up to 39 years old. And there were very few, only like 20-some%. You cited the number, 20% who were 40 or above, and of that, most of them were like below 45, and so we're not really getting in that group of 50s, 60s, 70s, and even 80s, which I think that's where you're going to see that significant statistically trend line.
Or even the because your lowest group was 20s. I mean, I don't know, these Gen Zers, man, they're the ones. I think it was the millennials who took on the hedge funds most recently, or yesterday or 2 days ago. But these Gen Zers, I feel like are very conscious, and millennials too, of course. But I feel like that when I hear them, like we have 2 Gen Zers just in our house, and they're very conscious about
We
what
do?
they support. Yeah, we do.
We do?
Well, they're actually in college. They're
God, you
not in our
scared me. I
house
thought
right
they're
now.
supposed to be in college.
they're supposed to be in college. They should be there. But anyway, but they like our daughter, she will not she's into fashion and she's going to fashion school, so on and so forth. But sustainability is crucial for her. She won't shop at places that are not economically, or not economically, but eco-friendly. So I just feel like that generation is very social. They're into social and corporate responsibility. And I think that would be definitely a change from, I don't know about, but definitely Gen X and are you a baby boomer?
Yes.
Okay. And baby boomers. How would
I'm
you?
the end of I'm last year of baby boomer.
Oh, okay. So you're barely a
I'm
baby.
barely
boomer.
I'm essentially.
By the way, that's the same thing with me. I'm last year. Kind of depends on how you define it, but I'm certainly either at the very beginning of Gen X or the very end of baby boomers.
Okay. So do you think, though, that this younger, I know that wasn't part of your study, but anecdotally, do you see evidence that as these kids grow up, that they, just because there's so much more, their lives are so different. They're in touch and they know so many.
Wait, I've just
globally.
met somebody my own age. Can we talk about other TV references?
We don't make any. Yeah, we're incidental. Yeah, Kathy, you make a great point. And we're doing that study now. And we're doing it in New York City. A student from the Bronx High School for Science contacted me, liked this study, wants to replicate it, but with younger people. And this is for a citywide science contest. And so that's what we're doing. But her sample is going to be the people you're talking about. and let's see whether we see anything like this distribution. And my guess is
Any
just what you said.
conservatives in New York City?
My guess is going to be no. So again, we're going to have some comparison issues, but we're still going to be able to look at the, who define themselves as liberal in the study that's published, and then these kids that are going to engage in this. As you said, your daughter, it's all about sustainability. She won't do something unless it doesn't have a sustainable aspect to it. I think you're right. When you're going to see the Gen Zs, that's going to be way more important to them than it was the millennials, the Xers, or the baby boomers.
Yeah, I mean, I think these Gen Zers, I mean, I think, they're looking at their planet, right? And they think that we haven't been good stewards of their planet, which they're probably very correct, or they are correct. And so I think
We used to throw things out the window.
Well,
throw cigarettes out the window.
We're going to call you.
Why am I on this age shtick tonight?
I don't know. I wouldn't even admit that. But yes, you're the madman where you where you pick up the picnic cloth and you just leave all the trash, and go, okay, we're out of here.
All right. Let me ask this question. So is there any way of extrapolating this out to we talked about at the beginning of the advice we give clients? You talked about a lot of this as opinion, but does this in the real world, what's the advice now?
Yeah, I mean, what really came to me, and again, we talk about this at the end of the paper, is this social advocacy genuine, or is it advertising? Okay. So are companies doing this because they know who their primary clients are? The primary clients, consumers, whatever you're going to call them. And they know that those primary clients believe in this anyway. And so they go ahead and do it to help develop customer loyalty, and to keep those people coming back to their place. They know that they're not getting a huge section of, for example, conservatives. Let's use Starbucks for an example, right? Mainly urban, oftentimes two of them on the same block. And so by them engaging in this, they're appealing to those folks and keeping them there as a competitive measure against all the other coffee stores like Pete's and so forth that are trying to get into that market. So in other words, is this heartfelt? Do people really care about this, or are they just doing it to keep us buying their products? And so that's a complex, issue. I don't know the answer. I don't know how to get the answer. I don't think anybody's going to say, whoever made this decision in the boardroom is going to say, yeah, basically we did it because we think the people who buy our product would like it.
I think, and this is just, I think because the trend has been, and you tell me if I'm right or not, I feel like corporate responsibility and social responsibility are things that have been in the last decade really important to a lot of different corporations. And I would think, not to be cold and callous, but that they're doing it because they think that their customers want them to do it, right? I mean, is that right? Is that why it kind of started? The trend is like, hey, this is important to our customers, so let's lead this way, and it's a marketing ploy. Right. But also hopefully somebody believes in it, and some corporations are really true. I mean, that.
Well, like all these beer companies aren't advertising during the Super Bowl. Is that to be politically correct? Is that just to save money? I love what he's saying here. Is that so? These are decisions that have been made because it helps with marketing. It's just almost as they didn't stumble into their political advocacy. They realized either, as you said, the conservatives aren't going to care, and we can go after more liberals, or we're not going to, whoever we lose, we're not doing well with anyway. This is the group we need to get.
Yep. I think that's the case that I'm making. I don't know the answer. Again, I don't think he was going to tell us the answer. Somebody made this decision. And it wasn't the entire company, right? Somebody in the upper echelons in the C-suite made the decision to donate to these different causes. Whether or not their employees agree with it or not, they certainly have the right to donate as a corporation, as a incorporated entity, to donate anywhere they want to donate. But you were talking about the social responsibility movement that has really been gaining ground since the 1980s. There's also regulatory issues behind this now. This is not entirely about your client. This is also regulators that have stepped into this space, just like they're going to soon be stepping into those big electronic firms, Facebook and YouTube and others, which currently don't have much regulations around them. And so there's going to be changes driven from there too. So you could argue there's organic change, which is bottom up, and then there's sort of a forced change, which is top down, which we could put into the government. But I would say this, there's two entities in society that I don't trust. And I don't think this is unusual. I don't trust the government, and I don't trust big corporations. Neither of them.
Happened out in the woods someplace, far away from.
Wait, you're saying that from you personally, or you're saying that from the general population?
For me personally, but it's certainly something that I've heard out there in the world and my friends, despite where they're on the political spectrum.
Right.
Neither of those entities have their best interests in mind. I mean, Nike, it wasn't that long ago that we found out that Nike is basically engaging in illegal and frankly abominable labor practices in manufacturing in other countries. Now, Nike's supposed to be this Seattle-based enlightened company that first brought in Jordan and all the rest of it, made us feel good, and was part of the fabric of American society. And we found this out. In other words, they'll do it if they can. If you can get away with it, I think most corporations are still going to do it. And
because they're marketing their liberal causes, and they're trying to bury
Chick-fil-A and iPhone. I love my iPhone. Don't mess with my iPhone. I don't care who's making it, or should I? Right. We all got our iPhones.
I do care, but not enough not to buy one. Darn it.
How will you order off of Amazon if you don't have your iPhone?
I don't know. This is a dilemma. I really, oh my gosh. I would love to. I could spend an hour talking to you about Facebook and all this other. Is that do you delve into that area too? Because maybe we'll have to have you back to talk about that.
Yeah, no, not at this point. But we haven't completely worked out the study with this terrific young student from Bronx High School of Science. And we might we've already talked about this, throwing in attitudes toward these tech giants. And I actually think that, you're going to see that their attitudes are pretty much, in that respect, pretty much the same as the older folks' attitudes. Because a lot of us older folks don't entirely trust our iPhones, right? Where's that data going? And
Alexa, is she listening to me all the time? Because you get, you talk. I have talked many times, a conversation over the phone, and then I get served an ad on something I've never ever looked up.
You're getting ads from Walmart today.
I know. Walmart's gonna ping me a million times. They're gonna try to get me back. But yeah, I agree. People, and you know what the other thing is, there is a lot, and if this is, you're looking at this next study of yours, there's a lot of young Gen Zers more. They are literally cutting off their social media. I think there's a couple of
Pam Anderson just cut off her social media.
Oh, Pam Anderson. But she's not a millennial. But anyway, but some people are really, honestly, they're off TikTok, they're off Instagram. They're just like, you know what, we're realizing this is not healthy for us, and they're just leaving it. So I'm really curious to see.
She announced it on Instagram, by the way.
So is she just getting off TikTok and she's announcing it on Instagram? She's just getting off YouTube?
Yeah.
Anyway, okay.
Right answer.
Anyway, I just think that's interesting too, because maybe that's something you'll be touching on.
Yeah. Oh, what's besides re-examining the study or redoing the study in New York? What else is on the plate? What else can we look forward to?
In this respect, don't have anything else planned. You mentioned the Hill magazine or the Hill newspaper a little earlier. I had a piece appear there yesterday morning about sort of transitions from one stage of a society's evolution to other stages of it. And I used Mark Twain as the metaphor and the American Rivers metaphor. So you guys ought to take a look at that. I'm sure you would want to devote an entire episode to that as well.
I read the Hill. I love the Hill.
Oh yeah. We read the Hill a lot, actually. More than the Harvard Business Review, I will admit.
Only because it's intimidating, the Harvard Business.
Well, yeah.
I don't think I'm gonna.
I feel like I have to be from Harvard.
I love this. His study this has been fascinating. We learned a lot. I think it makes us really.
The other thing is, can I just audit your class?
Yeah, I'll send you a guest link. Of course, it's all remote right now, so I can send you a guest link, and you can be enlightened anytime you want to. You just can't talk.
I just can't talk. Oh, that's good. You don't
turn your microphone off because you'll probably just take all the airtime otherwise.
After this
Oh,
conversation.
you got that, right? You picked up on that.
After this conversation, I know that you're saying turn that girl's mic off. We do not want to hear from her.
Dr. James Bailey, thank you so much. It's and we learned a new word, boycott.
Boycott. Yeah.
So that's
we learned a lot
I'm
of
going to
things.
drop. We learned a lot of things.
We were in class today. We went to GW today. Yeah.
What do we get? What's our grade? Teach, bro.
Well, for participation, you did okay for participation, and you learned a new word. So
I have a lot of participation.
If this were fourth grade, you'd be getting A's.
Okay, I'm going to take that A. I haven't had an A in a while.
We didn't even bicker that much. All right. So let me wrap this up. Off the Mark is a production of On the Mark Media with our worldwide headquarters in Rockville, Maryland, just outside the newly reopened Washington, D.C. If you like this episode, please get in touch with us at On the Mark Media on Twitter and Off the Mark at onthemarkmedia.com. Those are marks with a C. And if you didn't like us, call Kathy.
No, call anita.play.target.com.
All right. Thank you. It's been fantastic, and we really appreciate you joining us this week.
It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.